Israel and the Lebanese group. This has effectively been the second front of what is now a multi-front regional war between Israel and various Iranian proxies. It began, as you'll recall, in October of last year in the Gaza Strip with the Hamas attack on Israel. From there, it spiraled and expanded. Now, I think there's no doubt that in recent months, the Lebanese front has been the fiercest. Hezbollah was a very formidable enemy, the tip of the spear for Iran in the region. Its fortunes have changed in the last 2 months with an Israeli counteroffensive that included sabotage, air barrages, and ground incursions in southern Lebanon. The Americans have been working very hard to put together some sort of ceasefire, and indeed the incoming President Trump has signaled he would very much like to see a cap on that violence before he takes office. So what we've been hearing today is that a deal may be in place. The Israelis appear ready to sign on to a deal that would, they hope or they demand, distance Hezbollah's fighters from their border, the Lebanese-Israeli border, that would see a mechanism in place to prevent a rearming of Hezbollah. The Israelis also want to reserve the right to strike or resume strikes against Hezbollah should they see infractions. In the past, Lebanese officials and Hezbollah have balked at this, have chafed at this, but it appears, to judge by the optimistic comments from Israel, from US officials, that that may have been resolved. Tomorrow, we expect a security cabinet meeting in Jerusalem where the Israelis will apparently give their final approval to this deal, at which point it would be taken back to Beirut for the Lebanese government or a number of Lebanese officials representing Hezbollah to sign off on. And then we could have a deal in place really within a couple days.
Dan, why now? Has something changed on the battlefield or just within the respective centers of power that now is the time?
Well, I think there's exhaustion on both sides. Again, this war is now heading into its 14th month. I think also there's a sense that Hezbollah, it's worth remembering Hezbollah has been quite reticent in the last hours and days about what it demands and whether it will go along. I think there's no doubting that Hezbollah is really on the ropes militarily. It has been continuing attacks on Israel while Israeli airstrikes continue in Lebanon. However, the 100, 200, 300 launches a day at Israel are nowhere near the 3,000 or 4,000 launches the Israelis were expected. And that's because of a very successful series of decapitation strikes by the Israelis. Effectively, the Hezbollah leadership has been eliminated, and much of its arsenal has also been destroyed. So it could well be that Hezbollah, its Iranian patrons, have decided now is the time to leave the table. Now is the time to cut their losses. There may also be concern about what the future would hold under a Trump administration in the United States. Perhaps the new president would be more accommodating of harder Israeli measures in Lebanon. So I think all sides are ready for this, and we'll try to get it out the way before January 20th.
It's such a good point, bringing Hezbollah to the table, because I was thinking the opposite. Why would Israel come to the table feeling that there may be a more hawkish President Trump to support Israel? What, if any, does this mean in relationship to Israel and Palestine?
Well, if you're referring to the war in Gaza, there is no immediate linkage, not least as Hezbollah appears to have dropped its previous demand that any ceasefire in Lebanon come hand in hand with the ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. Hezbollah appears no longer to be demanding that linkage. However, there are indications, and again, I say this cautiously, that sometime after a Lebanon ceasefire is agreed, that may unfold into a knock-on ceasefire in the Gaza Strip with a limited release of hostages still held there by Hamas. It has some 101 hostages in the Gaza Strip that Israel wants out. And that may also lead to a winding down of the war in Gaza, though the Israelis insist they will not call off the war there. Unlike in Lebanon, Israel exercises near full control of the Gaza Strip. Unlike in Lebanon with Hezbollah, it has vowed to destroy Hamas. So its war goals in Gaza are very different to its war goals in Lebanon, and its predictions and its planning are accordingly very different in the two areas.
Dan, Prime Minister Netanyahu, how is his standing within Israel today? How strong is it? How secure?
Now, he was in the doldrums. Obviously, October 7th happened on his watch. It's the most serious, the bloodiest attack on Israel in its existence, the worst attack on Jews since the Holocaust. He has tried very hard to recover. He's stayed in office. And I think in the last 2 months, there's been some rallying of his whole domestic support, given the success of this counteroffensive in Lebanon, given the sense that Israel has retaken the initiative. It's also worth noting that the last 2-3 months saw quite extraordinary exchanges of blows between Israel and Iran. which many Israelis believe did restore their sense of deterrence, their sense of military virtuosity, military supremacy, if you like. He will have some opposition in his cabinet to this truce idea in Lebanon. One member, a far-right member called Itamar Ben-Gvir, has already said he would oppose it. He thinks Israel should press its advantage and crush Hezbollah in Lebanon. However, I think that Netanyahu has enough support within his coalition, within his cabinet, to pass this, especially if he can argue that all military aims have been exhausted in Lebanon, that Israel needs to refocus on the Gaza Strip and perhaps refocus strategically on Iran, its primary adversary, and also on what the future would hold in the region with the new U.S. administration.